Welcome to another Road to Hollywood. We've got an amazing show tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to our special guest. He is an amazing hit songwriter, producer. He is an artist and now an executive. We're going to be talking about the industry so many different ways. Please welcome to the Road to Hollywood, it's Reggie Calloway.
What's going on? What's going on out there? Hey, James, good to be here tonight.
Thank you so much, Reggie. Just saw you at South by Southwest. I know we're moving and shaking. It's great to have you on the show. You know, what we do is basically break down, the state of the industry, behind the scenes, what it takes because, as you know, the industry that we knew in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, it seems like 5 years ago seems like 500 years ago in the music business. But give us a little background. I know you're from Ohio, that rich, soulful, funky Ohio, and I had the pleasure of going to high school in Dayton, so I know it well. And, Bootsy and Frank Cashwati say hi, by the way.
All right,
so
all right.
Tell us about growing up in Cincinnati. And I know you had music in your family, but tell us, how you caught the bug and who were some of the artists that inspired you to want to do this yourself professionally?
Oh, man, I tell you, I'm going to go all the way back. I was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming. My father was in the Air Force, so I wasn't there very long. But
my father, too.
Oh, okay, cool, yeah. But while I was there, my mother took me while she was pregnant with me to this big concert, big with all the jazz legends. So we use it as a nice little excuse to just hit this bug for me. But in the family, my mother sung in the church choir, kind of little background thing. My father played trumpet, had some aunts and uncles that played music, and one was a composer and opera singer. As well as minister and teacher and all that. So it was kind of always around in a certain kind of way. The family's from Louisville, Kentucky originally. It's from my mother and father, from my grandparents. And I recently searched that roots back to Virginia, where Calloway's family is from too. So it was a lot of Calloways coming out of Virginia back in the plantation days. But moving back, settling in Louisville, Kentucky, and getting to hear my uncle play the piano, and my father would sit us on his lap and play his trumpet under the fireplace at my grandparents' house. By that time, he wasn't really playing a lot, but just the smell of the horn and the case and the valve oil, you just never forgot that. So
ingrained in the brain. Huh?
Yeah. So upon my mother and father divorcing, and after a few years, we moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. And in Cincinnati, it was a whole nother musical world. In fact, we had the very first place we moved to, our neighbor's father had a band that practiced in the basement. So we could sit with our legs down into the little trolley, whatever you call it, where the water goes down into the basement of the window, and listen and peep in and see the guys playing, with real live instruments. Yeah. So this was an incredible education and just feeling. So by the time, elementary school and elementary school choir and all this stuff, and getting exposed to music. This particular school had a little violin department, so you could. I didn't take the violin, but one of my other neighbors was a violinist from a really young age, and another one was a bass player, and they went on to play in some bands that I had. So this. From all elementary school all the way through high school, there was a lot of great associations, and of course we formed our own bands. By the time junior high school, that's when I finally got my first trumpet. I wanted a guitar, but my mother said, if you get in a band and pick an instrument, then I'll help you get one, because she was concerned that, a lot of kids get started and never finish. But I got that first cornet, and that warm smell came back to me in that beautiful velvet case, and that horn took me through college and got my education for me. But I don't want to talk too much without your questions, because I'll go on and on and on. Make sure I'm getting where you want to go.
We love it. I myself, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, in '64, like so many of us. And my family moved to England. My father, of course, in the Air Force, we moved to right outside of London. And I said, I want to get a guitar. And my mother said, I'll get you a guitar if you play in the school orchestra.
Right,
So
same story,
I'm playing the cello and the guitar.
Okay.
And it gives you that wider, appreciation for music, I always worry about the young kids today, because it's all a computer and a click, and, the dues paying of learning and mastering your instrument and playing together is an endangered species, you know.
For sure,
We
for
got to
sure.
keep that alive. Well, I know, of course, Cincinnati being such a rich community. Of course, James Brown having his base there, and of course, like I say, with Bootsy Collins and George Clinton coming through there, and then of course everybody around that, being up the road in Dayton, that whole scene. So, what were some of your first memories that people from the area could actually become hits? They were nationally known.
It was amazing. I mean, we had a lot of talent shows back in the day. I mean, that was one of the most great honing grounds to where you could put your act together, go out, get blown away, come back the next month and try to do better, or put together a new unit, and then try to get to the bigger shows. But along with those shows, my first real band, so to speak, was like 15. And so I was the youngest guy in the band, a group called the Motown Masters, and they said, would you like to be in our band? I'm like, okay. By this time, I'd had my little snare drum and tuba and E-flat horn bands, but now it was like a real band with guitar and bass and keyboards and singing.
And parties and all that.
Yeah, and one of our lead singers was like a James Brown fanatic copier, but he had his own style as well. But everybody was doing the James Brown back in the day. So because James Brown, of course, recorded right there in Cincinnati, and King Records. And the biggest thing that James did for the kids was he would perform every Easter for like 99 cents at the convention center. So all the kids in town could come and see this amazing show, and these incredible musicians, which learned. When you study it, that's why, when I learned to put a show together, Midnight Star, later on, our shows were pretty incredible because of the experiences that we learned of how to pace. And but before that, the students of the game, on one of those shows, that's when Bootsy Collins joined James Brown. So to see the original James Brown, and then to see James Brown with the JBs, with Bootsy, and that whole house guest flavor which Bootsy came from, brought a whole nother youth to what James was doing, a whole nother funk, and that gave us the sense of what being on the one is. And that's why the Midwest is so funky to this day, is that we have this huge respect for tempo and pace and the accent, how to put it down, not just play the notes, but how to give it life and how to give it feeling, and to see, when you watch Bootsy today, you just see, you feel the whole music. He can just talk and you can feel the music because he's just so funky. But so we had Bootsy, we had James Brown. James Brown's influence became even greater in that my mother opened up her first business, a flower shop. She put an ice cream parlor in the back so that me and my brother could run that and not get so consumed with the contemporary and the professionalism of the flower shop. We could kind of do our own thing. But for our grand opening, she invited James Brown to come to our grand opening. And James Brown consented, flew in on his jet. His only stipulation was that there would be no big crowd out front. Because he says, if it's a big crowd, I'm leaving. So we had to keep it really low key, only a few friends, and that influence just never left, because that was back in the day of I'm black and I'm proud. He was clean, afro, the scarf, the jacket, just to the max. And then years later, to be able to open for James Brown, Midnight Star opening for James Brown, and tell him that story, it's like those kind of memories are incredible. But just to run a few, for the people that don't know, right there in Cincinnati, which is where Midnight Star got a lot of our honing and our growth, at my mother's house, and the whole city welcomed us. But also just being able to hear the Ohio players standing right next to them in a ballroom, not in a concert hall, but watching them like at a small nightclub. Ohio players, Bootsy and the House Kids, Roger and Zapp. They was before Zapp. It was just Roger and the Human Body. He had a group called the Human Body where he played his guitar through a Leslie organ, in a tree. And Roger would put on an amazing show for like an hour and a half at this young age, just killing it. Just all kind of singing groups, all kind of and even jazz musicians. We had a place called the Viking Lounge where Roshan Roland Kirk would come to. Sonny Stitt. We had the pleasure of performing with Sonny Stitt for 2 weeks at the Viking Lounge as college students, with one of the greatest saxophone players of all time. So we were getting these experiences through the nightclubs and through the talent shows that today is hard to come by.
Sure. So by the time it became Midnight Star, you'd obviously paid dues for years. You'd been around watching the others of how they do it, putting on the show, the professionalism. What was the mindset there as far as where you wanted to take that band and writing original music? When did it really change into like that whole professional level for you?
Yeah, well, after the Motown Masters, then I was asked to be in another group called MD Fire Department, and that was even a level higher. These guys were older; they were like 26. I was like 18 years old, high school. President of the senior class, and you're getting ready to do the prom and getting ready to graduate, and these guys said, "We're going to go on the road. Do you want to go with us?" I'm like, "Man, you mean like Mr. Prom?" And I'm the president too. But I knew what my life was going to be about. I knew I had to get out there, and if this was the calling at the time, I said, let me check it out, because I don't know if I get this opportunity again. So this band was totally professional. We toured from Cincinnati, Ohio, all the way across the United States to every little hole in the wall that we could get. Heading west, right? Yeah. We're heading west. We're coming to Los Angeles to make our real claim to fame. But we ended up in Las Vegas, and the morning we pulled up in Las Vegas, sleepy and tired, and I'm looking for the big casino, right? I'm looking for the lights.
Yeah, the neon.
Yeah, the neon. But we was right there in the heart of the ghetto of Las Vegas, and there wasn't no neon. I was like, oh, they got ghettos everywhere. But it was a great honing ground, because in this club in Las Vegas, we had to battle against another band from the Vegas area, and they play our set, we play our set, they play our set, we talking about till 3 and 4 in the morning, every night, 6 nights a week with 1 night off. But the highlight was steak and eggs after the gig, because you could get steak and eggs for 99 cents in Las Vegas. Right. But this band was so powerful against us, and we were like the best band in our area. Yeah. And that unsigned band. But I just saw what was happening, and after I flew back home from my graduation, and then flew back out again, it clicked for me. It's like, we're not playing any original music. We're playing all cover songs. Mm-hmm. This band's playing original music. They're killing us. I need to learn something about music. What I've learned on my own through high school, and copying records is not enough.
Being an imitator is one thing.
Yeah,
it's got to be original.
Yeah. I want to learn how to write music. I want to learn how to compose, and I want to have my own band where the guys will understand that. And because the older guys was like, oh, shut up, young punk. We're not learning your songs. You don't know how to write music. So that's when I decided to go to college and auditioned at a few places. IU turned me down, which is one of the most prestigious schools, and Kentucky State University welcomed me and said, here's a scholarship, come to our school, be in our marching band, our jazz ensembles. Yeah. I'm there, because Kentucky State was right in the middle of Louisville and right in the middle of Cincinnati, so I didn't have to go too far, and I had family on both ends, so it was very insulated. But and then I got the pleasure of joining a band in Kentucky State called FINGAZ, and that's where I met Bill Simmons and a lot of the other guys. But still, it wasn't enough, because we were still playing cover songs and maybe 1 or 2 originals. And then one year I decided, you know what, after learning all this, counterpoint and contrapuntal and jazz and the rest, I want to try some of this stuff for real. Mm-hmm. So I went back to Cincinnati and formed my first contemporary jazz group with my 2 brothers and 2 other guys, and we did 90% original tunes, but it was some of it was kind of R&B, but most of it was experimental. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to 12/8, different time signatures and different key signatures and crazy chord changes. So it was just a blast. Yeah. And that group kind of led to the formation of Midnight Star, because we did a couple of summers, but every summer the summer would end and it was time to go back to school. So the summer would end, time to go back to school. After 2 of those, I'm like, man, I need to put together a band that's going to be together all the time. And this group happened to break up because these guys weren't ready to make that jump. They had jobs and families. So I returned to Kentucky State in my junior year. I said, I'm going to put together the greatest band in the world, and went about that by going through the music department, and Bill Simmons, who I had met prior with Funkified, and we became real close, was the first person I went to, and then began to build the band out with Jeffrey Cooper and Kenneth Gant, Belinda Lipscomb, and the rest of the cats. Melvin Gentry, Bo Watson came in as freshmen, and so that started. And Dana Madison, who's now deceased, I always want to give honor to Dana because he was very powerful in our early stages. But from the very beginning, at that point, we knew that this is what we got to do. Everybody's got to be consistent. We may have to quit school, which we did, in order to do this full time. Because if we're going to make it, we got to compete against our idols, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Cool the Gang. Yeah. We got to bring it. There's no half-stepping.
Wow. Well, that's amazing stories. Again, our guest tonight is Reggie Calloway. He is a force in the music industry. When we come back from our break, we're going to be talking a little bit about the mega hits that he not only wrote and was a part of with Midnight Star, everything from Freakazoid and Wet My Whistle and No Parking on a Dance Floor and, Slow Jam with Babyface and Operator and Midas Touch, so many hits. But he went on to write great, great songs for the likes of Teddy Pendergrass and Gladys Knight and Levert and so many great artists. So we're going to get some words right now from Brian Shafton. He's the CEO of RBC, running those big careers with Tech 9, E40, Too Short. So much knowledge. We're coming right back with Reggie Calloway. More on the road to Hollywood. Dependency on radio. What are some of the other drivers? Getting companies to sponsor, tie-ins. What are some of the things?
Yeah, we've been really lucky in terms of having sponsors. Monster's been a phenomenal sponsor for Tech 9, for example. But again, if I'm going to have to be limited to say one thing, it's going to be the online. It's just so crucial. So I get my videos up there. I can touch the fans with the social networks and stuff like that. So it's all going to revert back to that. That's where we're spending most of our money. That's where we're finding the marketing is the most effective. Yeah. If you see a TV commercial, I have to count on you remembering that TV commercial till the next time you're at Best Buy to buy the album, versus I have a banner on a site. You can click that banner. It takes you directly to the iTunes link, and you can buy it right then and there. I want to make it as easy as possible for my consumers to hear the music and own the music that they want to own.
Yeah, there's impulse.
Impulse buy and letting them know it's aware and giving them a direct route to purchase it immediately. Mm-hmm. But it's a heavy online situation for us, and the focus keeps going that way.
Yeah. Well, we know iTunes is the big 800-pound gorilla, and there's always new stores and things in the works. Where does the Spotify's and RDOs, where do all these new guys fit into the mix?
Well, the RDO and Spotify are streaming services. I'm not a huge fan of them, and the reason is there's no money to be made from the artist or the label's perspective. Mm-hmm. If I sell a $9.99 album on iTunes, the label's entitled to $7. If I get a single stream from Spotify, I get 0.0025 cents per stream. I've got to sell 6,000 streams to make up for one album. So, streaming, I understand why it's beneficial. We like, for financial reasons, the owning it. Mm-hmm. We also think the fans like to own it. In terms of people biting at iTunes' heels, yeah, iTunes is the market leader by far. However, you're seeing Google come up. You're seeing Amazon, even on the urban side, make a huge margin. Mm-hmm. And the other person that we're seeing is Move, which is also known as Cricket. We mm-hmm. think that those are 3 big-time growth accounts for the industry this year.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, you've got to have great content to start this out. You got to have your hustle going. But what are some of the other traits you're seeing in these guys that are being successful these days, independently?
So it's the touring, for sure. Yeah. Whether it's E40 that was just in Minneapolis yesterday and took my main buyer, Sonia, from Best Buy out to dinner, is a crucial thing. Tech 9 being on the road, Webby doing his Chitlin circuit, that's crucial because you're out touching the fans, getting them excited, and excited enough to buy your music. Mm-hmm. Again, it's going to be the online component of the social networks, consistently talking to the fans and letting it be known. That's really where it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. So you can't be away from the market too long. You got to give them constant information or updates.
With very few exceptions, can an artist have more than an 18-month reprieve from the market. If you eliminate, let's say, a Dr. Dre and an Eminem, there's very few examples of artists who have stayed out of the marketplace for more than 2 years and come back with a successful album. The only other one that I can think of off the top of my hand is one of my artists, Twista, who had that happen with his Kamikaze record, and that broke the rules. But if you are not active in the marketplace, not just by touring, not just by being online and on YouTube, but by actually releasing commercial product at least every 18 months, you're out of people's minds. Mm-hmm. And that's a major problem.
Mm-hmm. And as far as the online component, obviously there's a lot of reality shows, more and more of them are kind of moving online. Are any of your artists involved with any kind of like weekly show or daily updates? Or?
Yeah, Too Short's been on a ton of reality shows, and that's done well for us. We had another group called White Star, which was it was actually a rock group that we had that was like a Legends kid. So it was Lou Adler's kid, Roy Orbison's kid, the Allman Brothers kid, and they had a great reality show on VH1 as well. Like I said, Too Short's on a ton of them. Tech Nine makes a lot of guest appearances. MTV2 just did When I Was 17, and Hollywood Squares, or those have done well. But again, it's the online stuff, because that's a destination purchase. People are typing that in, learning about it, and you can easily see the numbers, and it can be monetized. That's where it's happening. So even if you're not on your traditional television shows, get it going online, because there's a huge opportunity there for everybody.
Mm-hmm. So obviously the guys that are sitting at home thinking, I gotta get a record deal, they're spending all their time trying to wine and dine, these A&R guys, trying to get them to sign them. What message do you have for them?
I think you're barking up the wrong tree. The music is crucial. I get a lot of people, hey, check out my music. It's like, I don't want to listen to your music unless I know you've already done a lot of the grind. What does that mean? It means you better have a lot of Facebook friends. It means you better have a lot of followers on Twitter. It must mean that you have interaction with these guys, that you're getting retweeted, that you're corresponding with them, and the fan base is corresponding with you. If you have those things on lock, then let's look at the music. But it makes no sense to start from zero. I'd rather have, I got the great opportunity to work with someone like Master P, who a lot of people are going to say isn't the best rapper. But he sold so many more records than anyone else. Why? Because he worked harder. So I want to see someone that's going to be able to put in that grind and have that work ethic almost more than the music. But you really need to have both. You need to have Tech Nine that's going to be out there 200 days on his Twitter account constantly and in the studio and not getting much sleep. If you want to be successful, that's what you want to do. If you're going to constantly just send your music to these A&R guys, you already know what's going to happen. You're going to get a lot of unreturned phone calls.
Well, like you say, what's the story? So if you don't have a story, what do they have to take to their boss? A good song?
The music's hot.
Yeah.
It's a tough sell.
Right.
It's a tough sell.
You don't have a base.
It's a lot of building.
Yeah.
It's a lot of building.
Yeah. Welcome back to The Road to Hollywood. Our guest on this episode is Reggie Calloway. He was a big part of not only Midnight Star, but wrote songs for so many of your favorite artists. Again, working with Babyface, writing those tunes for Climax, Teddy Pendergrass, Gladys Knight, Levert, The Whispers. So much great music came from our guest tonight. Reggie, talk a little bit about, again, seeing that first success, because I know you had a couple albums out. You're getting better. The live show, I'm sure, is building up. Talking about, coming out with a Freakazoid and changing your life. Talk about the no parking on the dance floor era and really crystallizing, what the people wanted and coming with what radio was eating up.
It was a long road.
Yeah.
And like you said, it started with all the the high school bands of learning, all the Commodore songs, learning all Kool and the Gang songs, learning all the James Brown songs, and then beginning to figure out how do you do this? How do you construct these songs? Why are certain songs a hit and why are certain songs not? What's memorable? Why are people dancing off of this song and they're not dancing off of that song? Yeah. So we had to solve that. And as far as, like I said, with Sunchild, I knew I was doing experimental music. With Midnight Star, we were beginning to say, okay, we want to be commercial, but yet it's still, we want to be creative. So so our idols, like I said, were the Earth, Wind and Fires and the Chicagos.
You had Ohio players with that jazz element, the smooth.
Yeah, but the art of doing that is what we didn't get right away. So our earlier albums, people don't know that, before Midnight Star in September of 1976, we didn't get a hit until 1983. And we got signed in 1979. So that was pretty quick. I mean, after the first year or so, Motown, we sent tape to Motown and they said, come back in about 2 years. And we were brokenhearted, but they were right. Motown was right, but they probably wish they had us after that. But so 2 years later was kind of when it started clicking for us. But that was because we were grinding, we were performing all the time. Our live show was far better than our original songs because we were still, experimenting. But putting on a show and musicianship, we were kind of killing it. And, we had the whole image thing going, the costumes, we were really conscious of all those things, choreography, all that stuff. We stopped doing choreography for a while. My mother said, where the steps go? Y'all better get that back in there. She killed me. But
they want to see a show.
Yeah. So in that first signing, we were on the road when I got the call from Dick Griffey of Solar Records saying, and he had come to see us twice for our auditions, once in Cincinnati and once in Las Vegas, back to Las Vegas again.
Wow.
It's the first time I ever said that. And it hit me like that.
Was that original club, or where did he see in Vegas?
He saw us on the Air Force Base. We did 2 Air Force tours. Mm-hmm. So when Dick came and saw us in Cincinnati, our saxophone player, Bill Simmons, my dear friend, was sick. And he wasn't performing with us. And we couldn't tell Dick that somebody was sick and we weren't going to do it or whatever because it was a 9-piece band and everybody was important, right? Mm-hmm. So after the audition, Dick said, you guys were really, really good, but there was a note missing. There was a harmony missing. I think it was in the horn section and in the background section. And sure enough, our saxophone player was sick. So we're like, this guy knows something about music. We couldn't pull the wool over him. So he says, I want to see you again. Because when he heard us, it was in an empty nightclub in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the Palm Room. Just us, Dick Griffey, and an empty club. He says, I want to, and that takes heart to audition like that. Sure. He said, I want to hear you again. So he came to, while we were on the Air Force Space tour, to a packed, club with a bunch of Air Force guys screaming and the whole deal, and Bill was well, and we performed, and then I got a call from Dick, later on saying, I want to sign you guys to my little label, Solar Records. I said, what do you think about it? I said, we're down with that. He says, who do you want to produce it? And even though Quincy Jones was my idol coming up, I still didn't know what a producer did. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what the job was. It was like, producer, what's that? We're just going to go in and make the record, right? But he says, I want you to have a producer. So once again, our jazz roots kicked in. We picked Harvey Mason to be our first producer, which was a great education because with Harvey, who had played on so many different great session albums, he knew all the cats in L.A. So that was that introduction to some of the greatest, Michael Boddicker and some of these great, programmers and instrumentalists, and it was incredible. All the great horn players from Don Myrick, on down to George Bohannon on trombone. Got to meet all these guys through Harvey, because I hadn't got to Quincy yet. Yeah. So we had three albums that were kind of all over the place. I mean, it was not only was the music just a little bit off, just a little bit too much here, a little bit too little there. But also with the timing of the things. The timing is important in getting the hit because we had about 4 different distributors during that time. Dick was moving with Elektra. He was with this company over here, that company over there. We had one album that had 2 distributors. Each one controlled a piece of the record, so no one could land it. But at a certain point, after having Leon Silvers produce our second album, and in the training from Leon that I was able to pick up, Leon was much more contemporary and much more commercial at the same time because he was young and he was doing the second time around. He was doing the Whispers and the Beat Goes On. He was so just to watch him work and to learn. And Leon gave me all this control in the studio. And then after that, into that album, Leon had to go to Africa with his band Dynasty. So when Leon left, the production job fell on me. So my schooling took on another level. Yes. Then by the third album of really getting in there and trying to do it, we still didn't get a hit. 3 albums, no hit. Local hits. We say called local gold. Everybody in Cincinnati had heard it. But it came to a do or die. It was really a do or die thing. Like either we're going to get a hit or maybe we're going to get dropped off the label. In today's market, you're dropped after one album.
Yeah.
Dick Griffey gave us 3 albums before closing the door.
Sure.
And this 4th album was like, okay, need some higher thinking. And Leon Burnett, our road manager, was a dear friend of Quincy Jones. So we went to a Quincy Jones concert in Indianapolis, and Leon introduced us to Quincy, and Quincy spoke with me one-on-one for about an hour. It might have been 30 minutes, it might have been 5 minutes, for like an hour. But it changed my whole life and my whole view of what production was. Production is a psychology as much as it is a musicality. Mm-hmm. If your psychological thing ain't together, then you miss all the fine points. You compromise them away. Mm-hmm. So Quincy taught me two basic things among all the other things, but just 2 that live on to this day. And one is there's no democracy in music. Meaning you got a 9-piece group, you can't have 9 people making all the decisions, or you got a bunch of crap.
It's got to be one driver on the
It's
bus.
got to be one solid impulse that gets to the people. You can use ideas from everywhere, but it has to be funneled to hit like a singular voice. And the other one is you got to trust your gut in that feeling. So if the hair bumps on your arm rise up, something's going on. If you don't feel nothing, then ain't nothing happening. So a lot of those little things like that that brought us to that 4th album, and then getting into the streets of what do people really, really want. And that's how FINGAZ came about, understanding what people really, really want. What's going to rock the house and just tear the roof off, to where any radio promotion man in the world can hand it to the guy and say, you like this? And he can't say, I don't think I like that, because he knows right away that this is the stuff,
Yeah.
And that was that kind of a song. Radio promotion guy said, you made my job easy, because all I had to do was hand it to the guy,
Sure.
and or hand it to the disc jockey at the club, which is the real deal. Because the radio stations, even back in those days, were influenced by outside influences, but a disc jockey at a club, his level of influence was, did the people stay on the dance floor or did they leave? Mm-hmm. And with FINGAZ, nobody left.
Yeah.
And we tested it and proved it before we released it, and that's the kind of serious scientific method we had of really getting in there and trying to make something that people could really, really appreciate and dance to and party to.
So that was kind of the whole concept of the no parking on the dance floor. Title and the album was get the people on the floor, get them partying, have them go home.
Yeah, we wanted to make every single song be a hit on that album, but not in the same category, like stretch it a little bit without stretching it too far. In our previous album, we had stretched it too far. We'd have a reggae song over here, we'd have a spiritual song over there, we'd have a jazzy song over here, we'd have you can't stretch your audience too far, because then you don't get any penetration into what you're trying to do. You can do it over years.
Identity.
Yeah, got to get some identity. So the album kind of morphed itself after FINGAZ. So the parking, electricity, they all kind of came out of FINGAZ once we discovered that sound. And the irony of it is that the writing, my brother, myself, and Bill Simmons, once again, we were the horn players. So we put down our horns to help create this techno-funk sound that has no horns in it. Yeah. So that's a very ironic thing as well. Yeah, so that was fun.
Well, that's amazing. So you came through, that era, the incredible run, of course, collaborating with Babyface on Slow Jam and Operator and all that. Now, when did you start to write for others? And tell us any stories that you can about those incredible songs like, Casanova, which of course launched Levert, and Teddy Pendergrass. I mean, Joy was like the comeback. It was like really put him on the map. And of course, Gladys Knight and Natalie Cole. When did you start getting interested in writing for others and learn the value of copyrights and publishing and these co-writes?
It started pretty early. In that, once again, Quincy Jones being an idol of mine, and then finally learning what production really was. Then I knew that personally I wanted to make a stamp on music, and I wanted to use the whole Midnight Star. We had a company called Midstar Music that was part of the whole dream of building, a music machine, a dynasty, almost like a Motown within the corporation of a band's situation, which can be a problem for a band. It was a little bit too much for the band to take that, because a band wants to be a band. They don't want to be, this big conglomerate. But we were making that step towards that, and a lot of great things happened along the way. Bootsy Collins was one of the first outside groups that I wrote for and that we wrote for and co-produced, which was cool because it was right there, you know, and we were able to get back to each other. Bootsy performed on one of our records earlier, and then we did a trade and wrote and performed on one of his records. So that was really cool. But once we started getting, that was before the hits. But once we started getting the hits, then people started coming, you know, and Dick Griffey was coming really hard because he didn't want us to he didn't want us to have any time on our hands to go out and write for anybody else. So of course we began to work with the groups on the label. I think the first one was Climax and Whispers was so close together I can't even tell which one came first. But the Whispers was really an awesome challenge. They were coming off of And the Beat Goes On. And so we wrote about 3 or 4 things for them, Contagious, Some Kind of Lover, which are really cool. And they charted well, but not the mega hits that we were looking for that. But with Climax, that was really looking at the commerciality of them, you know, just seeing the whole, not just gimmick, but the whole all-female group and that whole thing that goes in terms of playing their own instruments and singing and being a real band and a real group. So that was a wonderful challenge. And once I got the concept of meeting in the ladies' room, you know, I was sitting at a dinner table in New York having lunch with Sylvia Rohn and a couple other people. And when one lady goes to the restroom in a table, they usually all go. And, you know, they go powder their nose and freshen up and come back. And the men are sitting there wondering, what are they talking about? They're talking about us while they're in there. And then ladies probably say, what are the guys doing while we're gone? Well, they probably don't care about us. But when they all left, I said, oh, they're having a meeting in the ladies' room. And that concept came. And then after that, it was only a matter of developing and building it, because that's like certain concepts, which I'm a very concept-heavy person. So when Freakazoid was gifted to us, some of my fraternity brothers were visiting and said that word. And once I heard it, I was like, oh, shit, we go into the garage and write this song right now because I know that that's the baddest concept in the world. Same thing with meeting in the ladies' room was like, all I got to do is not mess it up. You know, just don't mess up. Like when you meet a girl and she already likes you, just don't say nothing stupid. Just keep it simple, and you'll be all right. But so we were able to turn that one into a really big song. So also already it was the Whispers, Climax, and then we did some work with Dynasty. So that was on side of Solar. But at this point, you know, Dick Griffey, of course, understood that it was important to build this sort of production house around Midnight Star. So then he began to ask, do we have any other groups? So the first group we brought to Solar was The Deal. And so The Deal was signed to our production company. And Babyface wasn't in the original. He wasn't in there originally, but one of the guys didn't work out in the group. And we knew we were going to work with Babyface down the road, so we brought him into the group knowing that we'd eventually do a solo record. So I was able to produce the first Deals album, and we collaborated. And "Body Talk" was a big #2 song out of that particular production. And then later allowed them to produce themselves on their second album, and they did "Roses Are Red," which blew the roof off of them. And the rest is history. You know, with the Babyface in L.A. beginning to produce a lot of other things. And
I mean, did you have any inkling that L.A. Reid would become what he is today?
That no. But Babyface being a great songwriter and a great artist, that was obvious. But they were truly a team, because where Babyface is the passionate and musician and the musical, where L.A. is more the how does this work with the streets? You know, like, this might be pretty, but L.A. had a great sensibility for hit records, and L.A. was a credible student. You know, he studied. You know, he talks, you know, often about what he learned from myself and from the association. So he was a great student and understood, like you say, marketability, and you know, he helped fashion the group, The Deal, and get that whole thing. So he was a leader. And so that part of it, for sure. But it's awesome to rise up in the corporate ladder like that. It probably shocked himself as well. But that's a beautiful thing. But it's definitely a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, you know, there was the creative side and the playing and all that. But you saw the companies as kind of the suits and then the, you know, the evil empire in a sense. And he's bridged that gap so well. And
well, he really he understood, just like Berry Gordy understood. You know, Berry Gordy said, you know, I can sing, you know, I can dance, I can write, but I'm not like Smokey, and I'm not like Marvin, and I'm not, you know, and I'm not like Diana. So if I get into a managerial situation, then I can, you know, rocket their careers because of what I know about music and because of what I know about all these other things. And so L.A. Reid took on to that at the right time of his career, as opposed to, you know, going too long on the artist side and being burned out. So he did a really good job of that. And everybody can't do that. Like if even myself, I'm like, this music is so important to me. It's so, you know, being a songwriter is something you have to do, whether you released a song or not. You know, you're writing it all the time. So I'm still passionate about that, even though I'm at the executive side of the industry right now. I still enjoy writing, you know, and being a part of that. So it's a beautiful thing. So Babyface, I'm more like Babyface. I'm a mixture of, if you had to put two together, I've always wanted that entrepreneur and artist side, you know, trying to make those be the happy thing that we talk about. And that's why we're here today. We get into the entrepreneurial side.
I love it. It's a bridge. Every great player needs a great coach.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, Kobe, everybody, you need that guidance, you know. Tell us any story about writing Joy, you know.
Yeah.
Teddy Pendergrass, what a voice, you know. He had cooled off, especially in the crossover market at that point. Tell us about that song and the feeling behind that.
That was you know, Teddy Pendergrass has been one of my vocal idols for forever. I mean, there's no not a lot of comparison. And he came along and scared Marvin Gaye to death because it was like, who is this guy coming over here taking all the women away with this music? But at this point, you know, Teddy had the car accident, became paraplegic, and you know, had stepped back something. It was just, you know, a lot for him just to you know, to do the day-to-day things, let alone make music. We had changed managers at this point, and we were managed by Live, which was Shep Gordon and Daniel Marcus, and they managed Teddy Pendergrass as well as Luther Vandross. Yeah. So we were like, you know, in this place. In '86, my brother and I left Midnight Star and really began to do the full-time outside production thing. So first was Natalie Cole, and I think then Teddy may have came. So by the time we got to Teddy, the realization that this guy is in a wheelchair. This guy is, you know, his part of his diaphragm is not working. He doesn't have the power of the Teddy Pendergrass that we all grew up knowing. You know, that command was different. It was more of a mental, subtle command, because he still has the command, his presence. Just to be in the room, everybody just loves this guy, and women swoon over him. You know, he's just kicking back and doing his thing. So the magnetism still there. So, in thinking of a title, a concept for him, once again, you know, I knew it had to be. It couldn't be about just, you know, about just love and let's, you know, sex. Let's just go and get it on or whatever. It had to be deeper than that, and it occurred to me from talking to Teddy on the phone that this guy is still passionate about life, even though he's paralyzed. You know, he can't do what he did before. He's the same person, but yet he's a different person. And the word joy just came into my mind, and like we can talk about love through joy, and talk about life through joy and passion. So joy is still a love song, but it's a song about a state of mind. It's like, I like Stevie Wonder said, love's in need of love. So love for the sake of love, joy for the sake of joy, joy for the sake of love. It's like, wow, it's like he can carry this off, you know. And it needs to have a melody and a lyric that translate to where he is showing a sensitivity side, but it's just so simple and so cool. And then Joel Davis and I put together this groove, and then when I began to write the lyrics, it was just butter. It just flowed. And it's one of those kind of songs I think even Shep didn't know. It's like, why was that song a hit? He's like, he couldn't. I said, because of the story. the storyline and the melodies are so cool. And it's Teddy.
Sure. So you got that taste of, you know, what publishing and copyrights and a group may retire at some point, but the song can live forever.
Oh, yeah.
The song can be re-recorded, recut, used in a commercial, all that. Bring us, you know, full circle here. I know you're running now, you know, royalty exchange with your partners. Talk about, you know, the value of the copyrights and why you are now in that business?
Yeah, I knew a while back that publishing and copyrights was an important issue that was left on the table with a lot of artists. And what I mean by that is, you know, in the olden days, the record companies and the publishing companies just assumed that they owned your publishing. It was just kind of like a natural breath for them. It was like, we're doing you a favor by taking your publishing. And you know, when I made my very first record, you know, the guy says, well, if you guys record my song, I'll record a song on y'all. So we recorded our song, and he says, by the way, you know, you don't have a publishing company set up, so we'll just run it through my publishing company right now and make that just real simple for you, and you won't have to worry about that. I was young, but I was like, wait a minute, something's going on here. that sounds way too convoluted. Yeah. But then that started the ball rolling to understand that, you know, that when we create a song, you know, there's two sides of it. There's the writer's side and the publishing side. And when we do that creation, we're publishing it as we're putting it on paper, and we're copyrighting it as we put it on paper, or tape recorder, or whatever means you're using. And we own those. And if we decide to give away any of those rights or selling any of those rights, then that is something that we have the privilege of doing, not to something that just can be arbitrarily taken, you know. Yeah. So, you know, in our initial deals, you know, we give up some publishing in order to get in the door, so to speak, and you know, you have to realize that. But you have to be able to make some concessions in your career, but understand that that's your asset. So if you're giving up a piece of your asset, what are you getting for it? If you're getting a career and a hit record for renting out a couple of rooms in your house, so to speak, then that's your discretion. But you don't have to just let somebody move in your house if you don't want to. It's your house, you know. But and then like we're talking about the other songs, you know, I had the pleasure of dealing with Natalie Cole's Joy, you know, Jumpstart My Heart, and then LeVert's Casanova, which was one of our biggest songs that we've done. Freakazoid, Casanova, and I Want to Be Rich. Those are, you know, some of the biggest producers that will continue to be licensed forever and ever and ever. Well, inside those licenses, that creates an asset that allows an artist to retire with sort of that's your pension plan. You know, that's your real estate, that's your pension plan. Yeah. And now through a new company that we started with myself and my partner Sean Peace and Wilson Owens, we're teaching the world that this asset is something that you have the control of trading or buying a part of, or, you know, selling a part of it. So we created the Royalty Exchange, which is the first online internet marketplace that brings buyers and sellers of royalty streams together, so that now not only can a person sell just a piece without selling his copyrights or selling, you know, everything, which in the old days, that's the whole, you know, story is the guy sold everything for a Cadillac. So we're in the modern day now. You could give up a couple of nuts and bolts to get yourself through a hard spot and still keep the car or still keep the house. And that's a great philosophy that's going really, really well for us. And now also a person can be a buyer. You know, in the old days, when a catalog was sold, nobody knew about it until it was sold. You know, now you can learn about things that are being sold, and you can buy into it at a price point that fits your needs, and not necessarily a $100 million catalog or a $10 million catalog. You can get involved in these great assets at a much lower price point.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing stuff that you're doing. It's really great that the writers and the musicians and, you know, the artists are really more involved, you know, in those revenue streams and running it. And, you know, the business got so much more independently minded. After this next break, we're going to come back and talk a little bit about the mindset that it takes, you know, these days to be successful in this ever-changing business, and why an event like IES is so important to the independent community, so the artists and the business side really understands, you know, the film and the touring and the technologies and all that. Coming right back with our special guest. He is Reggie Calloway, and you're on the road to Hollywood.
Hey, what up? This is Corey from Slipknot.
This is Matt Sorum from Velvet Revolver.
What's up? It's your boy Mac 10.
Hey, this is Mike Inez from Alice in Chains.
What's up? This is Be Real from Cypress Hill.
What's up? I'm Sean from Yellow Card.
It's your boy Warren G.
I'm Brooks Wackerman from Bad Religion.
Hey, yo, this is Method Man.
This is Mick Jones and Foreigner.
I got a question for you. Are you serious about moving your creative career forward? then you need to be at IES.
If you're a musician out there, you got a band, you want to rock, don't sit down on your ass and wait for someone to knock on your door.
You can do it yourself. Don't wait for nobody. Do your thing, man. You know, life is short. You only live once.
Totally independent, and I love it.
Everything's important about the indie world. It has been for a long time.
You got more control, and you make 10 times as much money. 10 times more money.
Don't wait for the record label, do it yourself.
People need to hear the music that's in your head, that's in your fingers, that's in your heart. So get out there and let's hear it.
Because of the internet and because of the greed of those old school executives at these record companies, the power is now in your hands, artists.
Take back your art and don't sell yourself cheap or short to anyone.
If you believe in your music, if you believe in your gift, if you believe what God has given you, make sure you go to IES, show the world what you got. It's going to be going down here in Los Angeles, and it's something that gets all you independent artists getting going on that drive, doing what you guys got to do, man.
Be independent. Don't be afraid to be independent.
You got to be a part of doing you first, and that means independence. I implore you to go to the IES, the Independent Entertainment Summit, and do your thing.
If you think you know what you're doing in this music business, I don't care who you are, there are things you will learn.
The indie way is the way. You know, the large corporations have basically disintegrated. They're looking to the indie community to create the music and create the genesis of what's going to be the next environment.
If you started a new band and you're having a little bit of trouble figuring out where to go next, or what you should be doing, who you should be talking to, whether you need a record label or how to get your music distributed, you need to go to the Indie Entertainment Summit. That's the place where you go to meet industry panel experts. They're going to tell you everything you need to know to get you where you want to be.
For me, I spend all of my days and months going around the world educating musicians on how they can better actually release their music and market their music. It's part of my mission. It's part of the way that we can grow the music business. So I'm going to go at all the important summits that I can go to, and the Indie Entertainment Summit is going to be one of the places that I'll be. You want to be educated? You want me to help educate it? You better be there.
If you rap, sing, dance, model, DJ, or act, or like myself do comedy, you can't afford to miss this conference.
You're trying to do your thing in this business, and you're tired of waiting on somebody to help you. And August coming to LA, the Indie Entertainment Summit.
You know what time it is, man. It's that time, Rolex time. Chase some cash, get money, take care. Shout out to Hit Boy, G-Rock, Money Making Man, Stacy B, and Circa. And we here with the Indie Entertainment Summit, man. Y'all need to be here, man. It's in LA in August, man. Beautiful people here, man, dropping knowledge, dropping gems about this new way to pursue this music and a new way to get this money, man.
It's the Indie Entertainment Summit. That's the IES, baby.
Very important place to be if you want information to take things to the next level. You may not have access to the internet. It's okay too. Go there. You have an opportunity, IES.
Write it, rap it, produce it, mix it, arrange it, rap it, sell it. That gives you the power.
Every second that you're sitting on your butt waiting for something good to happen, your competition is passing you by. So if you got a dream, go and fight for it and support Indie Entertainment Summer.
I need y'all to come out to my city and represent with the Entertainment Indie Summit. It's going down August 1st through the 5th. If you're an independent artist, you're an independent label, you want to get your music out there, you want to network, come out to Los Angeles.
All you gotta do is, if you want to blow up in this industry, go to IES conference in LA, Google it, you gotta be there.
Showcases, panels, opportunities, everything that Indie Entertainment Summit does is something that is very much for today's music industry.
We're back on the road to Hollywood. So much to go over. Reggie, we got to get you on another show. We're in first gear now, and it's amazing as we wind up. But as we're talking about the mindset these days, we've seen the industry just change radically. But people like us, we move with it. You got all this technology now. There's all these new forms of streaming and radio and different things outside of that terrestrial radio. So many different options, you know, the film and TV placement and the monetizing now on YouTube and all that. Let's talk a little bit because, of course, we brought you out to IES last year. We had you on an amazing songwriting panel right after we inducted Diane Warren with Howard Hewitt and Damon Elliott and Peter, who works with Madonna and Beyonce. But as I say, this year we are inducting Quincy Jones. We're inducting Miles Davis. We're inducting Little Richard. And besides that, like I say, Bootsy Collins and George Clinton are going to be inducted by Snoop Dogg and vice versa. So bringing these heavyweights and sharing this information and being able to really interact with the people that are speaking and really form new relationships and build a business. Why is it so important for our viewers here that are trying to aspire and trying to move up in this business to be at an event like IES and be able to learn and connect and grow their business?
I tell you, like you say, just to see success and what people have done in the past gives you energy to open your eyes, And at IES, I was so just impressed with the information that's given out so willingly. I mean, so many people show up to help the indie artists navigate this sea. And some of the live performances, I mean, really gives you an idea of what you have to bring when you see some of the legends and some of the greats do these things, because we talked about earlier, that everybody's on the internet, and that is all great and good. But at the end of the day, are you in it to be internet famous, or are you in it because of your artistic values and what you're trying to bring about? So there's a marriage in this new technology and the talent or the image that you're bringing, because the last thing you want to do is have your 2 million followers and then get on stage and then you can't perform, So it's a hand-in-hand aspect. It still comes back down to the greatness of the songwriting, the song, the performance, the artist, and then using technology as a way now to blast it out to the entire world. Without having to go, club by club by club, you can capture, this amazing audience, this amazing following. So it's really opened up doors for the indie artists. But a lot of it still goes back to the basics. It's mixing the old school with the new school, because if you're hitting the chitlin circuit, which we talked about earlier, and you're hitting the clubs, then it gives you content for your internet marketing. So you have to be doing it all. It's not just sitting in your room, just tapping into the computer. This is about your music and your touching fans, and then reiterating that by re-engaging,
Sure. I mean, it's just such a full circle now that a creative person like an artist or a writer, producer can get involved in. There's less of an infrastructure out there where somebody's going to do it for you. And there's so many advantages to being more self-sufficient. Again, the royalty streams. If you are the artist, you're your own label, you produce the record or you write the songs. When that gets into film and TV, when that gets out there in all these streaming and international markets, the potential income is so much greater. And we're seeing independent artists right now, Joe Bonamassa, we talk about Tech Nine with virtually no airplay, generating $20 million this year. Of course, he's got his cult audience. He goes out and tours, and it's a very loyal
Back
audience.
to that again,
but these days with less record labels and less people to do it for you, it's kind of forcing the creative people to need to do more, even if you're trying to get the attention of others. And that's really what we try and do at IES, is really show them the big picture, what's all involved, and how important it is to build your team. We always say you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
Exactly.
Build that camaraderie.
And I see it as a very fun and challenging time. When the record company is involved, sometimes it can slow you down in terms of you waiting on your release date, you're waiting on your funding, you're waiting on this. But if you're an independent artist, you can be doing everything you need to do right now and letting it build to that point to where you need a bigger team, but build your team from the ground up to where you can make your own CD covers if you needed CD covers. Of course, we're so much online stuff right now. Even that part is kind of gone on the way. So your music can be so shoot your own video with your iPhone. I mean, I shot.
$300,000 to shoot a video.
Yeah, I'm an old school guy, but here I am in Dominican Republic shooting my own video on my iPhone. And well, no. I shot it on my Sony. I shouldn't say Sony because they're not paying me. But I shouldn't say iPhone either. Those are but on a handy cam, we can shoot our video on a handy cam and then edit it on our own computer, or we can shoot it on our phone. And it's endless. I mean, I have my own. You have your radio TV show. I have my own TV show now, but it's a web show. So I didn't need $20 million to start the songwriters block. We can do it very inexpensively now and send it out to the world and let that audience build. We talk about electronic digital books. I mean, you can create your own book without having to press up, 1 million copies or 1,000 copies. You can do it all digitally. So it's really exciting. It's fun. It's limitless. And not only can the new artists do it, but even the seasoned veteran artists can build upon their own infrastructure, even all the way down to merchandising. You don't have to have a merchandising company anymore. You don't have to print up 20,000 T-shirts. You can sell them one at a time online. These are great, exciting times.
Well, like we say, the glass is definitely half full, and it's what you make out of it. Reggie, where can we find you on the web?
Oh, man, you can find me at royaltyexchange.com, which is our exciting new company. We're helping artists to fund their own projects right now. Like we just helped Kashif, who's funding his History of R&B project through his royalties, where he's able to now take care of his own seed money and not have to give half the company away. So check us out at royaltyexchange.com. You can even send me an email at reggie@royaltyexchange.com. I want to hear from you, Reggie@royaltyexchange.com. We're here to help a lot of artists and to fund their projects and capitalize their ideas. So these are just exciting times. You have new methods, new means of getting the word out, and new means of funding yourself. So let's keep it going.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Our guest has been Reggie Calloway. We look forward to having you back at IES, and let's grow some careers. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week on the road to Hollywood.